Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's Lunch and Learn. I'm Lauren Smith with the International Franchise Association, and we have a great 30 minutes lined up for you. Before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that we are recording today's webinar and will make it available later this evening on community.franchise.org. If you have any questions for today's speakers, please add them to the Q&A box and they will be addressed toward the end. Today's topic is Craft a Winning Local Game Plan with Marketing Automation, and it is brought to us by Sochi. Here to provide today's discussion is Damian Rollison, Director of Market Insights at Sochi. Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you to Sochi for sponsoring today's Lunch and Learn. I'll go ahead and turn things over to you, Damian.
All right, thank you, Lauren, and thank you everyone for joining. We're going to have an interesting session, I hope, today. Again, our topic is using marketing automation to dominate your local marketing. And so I'm going to talk about that, but first I'm going to unveil a few facts from some research that we've done at Sochi. So to give you a little bit of a tour of today's talk track, we will start by talking about TikTok, and in particular, the rise of TikTok as a platform for local search, which is a story, first of all, that title may surprise you. It is kind of a less well-known topic than it probably should be. It also is going to kind of lead to a broader discussion about the importance of marketing in digital channels at the local level in a way that meets consumer expectations as they are shifting and changing. And, over time, that certainly does happen. The second agenda item, it has to do with the power of reviews in consumer decision making. Again, we will talk about some stats relevant to that topic that we have been able to come up with. And then we will segue into the topic promised by the title, how AI is transforming marketing, and in particular for franchises. Now, we do have a fairly short session today, half an hour or so. If we have time for some questions, we will certainly be happy. I will be happy to field those. And I would encourage you that if you do have a question, use the questions tool in Zoom to ask that question as it comes up, perhaps at an earlier part of the presentation. And we will take a look at the end and see if we have time to address a few of those questions. All right, so let's dig into our first topic, the rise of TikTok in local search. If you're like me, you're probably not a very active user of TikTok, or maybe you've never even downloaded the app or logged into it. But many consumers, and of course, as we know, younger consumers especially, are incredibly active on the platform, spending many hours every day, in fact, watching videos, perhaps sharing their own content. One of the things that has emerged as a result of that extreme level of popularity is that there are now TikTok videos covering a wide range of content, and people are able to search for things using TikTok as a tool, typing keywords into a search bar like it was Google. And many younger consumers especially are beginning to prefer platforms like TikTok because they're used to that ecosystem. They like the video-based content that they're seeing there. And when they have questions about travel, about, healthcare, about fashion, about a wide range of topics, it turns out, including searching for local businesses, they are in fact turning to TikTok. Now, it's not just about TikTok. What I mentioned earlier is that TikTok is sort of a bleeding edge platform, you could call it, that's defining a new type of consumer behavior. Instagram is also very important, a little bit more of a follower in terms of innovation, I would say, but it has a very big audience as well. And what we have found in our research, and we'll break this down in a little more detail in a moment, but 64%, a surprising proportion of consumers within the Gen Z age group, uses Instagram and TikTok in varying degrees for local search and discovery. And that means, if they need to find, a restaurant near me or some type of search like that, they're likely to at least try to use TikTok or Instagram for that kind of search. And often when I talk about this stat, to let's say a live audience, I get a response like, how would you even do that? How would you search for, restaurants or other types of businesses on a platform like TikTok? And it turns out you really can do that. You again are typing in keywords into a search box and you're going to see content, but it's not traditional search engine results as we're used to talking about them with the Google 3-pack and the local results and the organic results and so on. That's the sort of traditional model, still very important, still used more often by more consumers overall. So we're not saying that Google has been replaced, but there's this what we would call emergent behavior of, again, mostly more younger consumers turning to these newer platforms because that video-based result is so compelling for them. They've found it so useful in other areas that they're turning to it for all of their search needs, including local search and discovery. So where we're used to seeing a search function like this one, if I'm interested in restaurants in Miami, I'm going to get my phone out, I'm going to open up a browser or a search app, and I'm going to type in restaurants in Miami, and I'm going to get some type of result back. And we're also used to sort of navigating through the results to find the ones that are the more relevant. There's a lot of behavior that goes into our traditional way of dealing with search, but it's very text-based, right? Whereas this sort of emergent platform, it replaces that, at least to some extent, replaces that experience with this video-based, highly visual, multimedia experience. And as you can see with this real example, you actually can type in restaurants in Miami. I encourage you to try this yourself, by the way. It isn't just restaurants, but that's one where that's a type of search because it was one of the first to kind of emerge on TikTok, where almost no matter what geography you're in, you should be able to find content. And it isn't necessarily just what we would call influencer content, people with a ton of followers who are, almost semi-professional restaurant reviewers. You will find that kind of content, maybe more especially in larger metro areas. But if you live in a mid-sized town, a smaller community, you're going to find content more often just uploaded by peers, people who have recommendations and they want to share them. And this is the medium by which they're doing that. Now, you're going to notice right away that because the rules are very different in this ecosystem, you're not going to be able to replicate the same strategies exactly as you are maybe practicing them already on a platform like Google, or let's say Yelp, or Bing, or some of these more traditional platforms where you can fill out a business profile for every one of your locations, and you can indicate your hours of operation and your link to your website and all of these things. TikTok does not have that functionality yet. They have just a few little items where you can maybe categorize your TikTok profile according to the type of business that you are, but they don't have a full local search platform or a full set of functionality. Instagram, in fact, is a little bit further along with that. They actually do have the ability to, see businesses laid out on a map and so on. So Instagram has a little more of a sense of what a nearby business looks like, and they treat them a little bit differently. TikTok is very much it's the same kind of content for everybody, but that content, within that paradigm, the content can be very narrowly targeted, and it is more likely to be content created more by peers. So in order to get involved in that in a meaningful way, you have to take a different kind of an approach. But really, what I would advocate for is that you just begin to become aware of TikTok's importance. You're not going to throw away your strategy as it relates to other platforms. And this chart, although it is there's a lot of bars on here. It's a bit hard to follow, perhaps. I'm going to explain what we're looking at, and this really does, I think, capture the fact that a search strategy today for local businesses needs to be holistic. It needs to acknowledge the rise of TikTok and the importance as well of Instagram, but it's not as though our old strategies don't matter anymore. So I mentioned before, 64% of Gen Z uses TikTok and Instagram for search and discovery. That you can see that in this chart, where what that is an average of the results for Instagram, which is kind of that light blue bar, and TikTok, which is the gray bar on the right-hand side. If you look at the 18 to 24, so start over on the left-hand side of the chart. If you look at that 18 to 24 age group, you will see, and this was shocking to us, but the data tells us that when we asked consumers which sites or apps have you used in the last 30 days to look up information about a local business, and by the way, we didn't say restaurant, we just said a business of any kind, we found that 67% of the 18 to 24-year-olds mentioned or chose Instagram, 62% chose TikTok, and 61% chose the third rated platform, Google Search. So if you're just looking at 18 to 24-year-olds, perhaps imagine a business that was only marketing to 18 to 24-year-olds. That would be kind of a rare case, but if you were, then you would now conclude that Instagram and TikTok are actually more important than Google. However, if you track the green bar representing Google search across all of the age groups, you can see that its importance only grows the older the consumer group, across the older consumer groups, whereas the importance of Instagram and TikTok does decline. Now, I would note that those Instagram and TikTok bars are still pretty high for 25 to 34-year-olds and 35 to 44. So this is still a significant finding, the fact that marketers need to become acclimated to what does it mean to market yourself on these platforms that are more emergent. But overall, consumers do still favor Google search. And if you go to the other end of the spectrum, to the older consumers, you can see that it's really about Google search, Google Maps, and interestingly, Facebook is very popular amongst those older consumers, whereas Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok, they just fall off the cliff more or less. Now, I would imagine, that at the time that this survey was taken, that was a point in time. As these things evolve, we will probably see more usage of the platforms now favored by younger consumers, more of that usage across the board. After all, everybody's getting older, but also these platforms are beginning to appeal to a broader demographic base, broader all the time. And so I think that this is just a point in time, as I say, and that this trend will in fact continue. So that can be a bit of a challenge. What it means is you need to keep doing all the things you've been doing already to make sure that you stand out and are competitive in traditional search, which we can call it that now, Google type searches, but also you need to start pivoting toward these emergent platforms and make sure that you are present and active on those as well. The way to sum all of that up is to say that 91% of consumers say that their offline purchase journeys, when they're buying something locally, that those journeys begin online, at least some of the time. Obviously, if I'm going to my grocery store that I go to every week, I'm not going to look it up on Google Maps first, but 91% of consumers are used to using digital tools in that manner. But the chart that we were just looking at complicates that picture a little bit, doesn't it? Because we can't assume that the digital tools that we're used to using are the ones that all consumers will prefer. We need to think about things in a broader sense, a more holistic sense. And so what I would say as a takeaway for this part of the conversation is that marketers, assuming you're already active in the more traditional platforms, what you really need to do as your own homework assignment is to make sure that you are on TikTok and Instagram, just that you have an account, and I would say TikTok in particular might be one where you may not have even dipped your toe in yet, but you need to be aware of the way that platform operates, the kind of content that you're likely to see, especially in your industry. So do some searches in whatever your industry might be. You're going to find that there is video content recommendations from TikTok users related to many, many industries in a way that is probably going to surprise you. Begin to learn what those conversations look like, and then you can start thinking about creating native content for TikTok. And I will say too, as a recommendation, to make sure that the content is educational or entertaining and not merely promotional. That is always true. That's a recommendation we've made for a long time when it comes to social media marketing. So that applies to Facebook, it applies to Instagram, but especially so with TikTok, where value for the user is prized above anything else. And you'll see this if you've seen any video content on the platform, that people are always either educational or entertaining or both. Useful would be another way of describing the educational side of it. They are never just about, hey, buy this stuff from me because my products and services are so great. That's going to fall flat on the platform. So you need to lean in to providing value to the user. All right. So let's segue a little bit into our topic number 2, which is the power of reviews in consumer decision making. Now, this is something where we kind of all know that consumers read online reviews. In fact, if we were doing the agenda topics in the other order, I might have started out by saying, hey, reviews, that's a traditional way of thinking about things. TikTok is now the video solution. They do kind of go hand in hand, but reviews are still incredibly powerful. And just to sort of sum this up, you've probably seen stats like this. This comes out of the same survey that produced the TikTok and Instagram results that we were just looking at. 87% of consumers say that they frequently read online reviews before choosing a local business. And, reviews are important for their content. When I read reviews, I want to read a few different opinions and see, both the content of those opinions and whether that's relevant to what I'm searching for. But I also even kind of, try to draw conclusions about what kind of person is writing this review. Does this person seem trustworthy to me, or do they seem like maybe a little bit of a crackpot, and therefore I'm going to read some other review? We do a lot of that kind of those judgment calls. And so when choosing a local business or buying a product on Amazon or just about anything, we're confronted with this review content, and we do make use of it. And ratings too are very important. In our survey, we found 81% of consumers will not visit a business that has less than a 3-star rating. And I would say in some industries, that's even higher. In fact, it might surprise you to know that the average business in Google business profiles, has a star rating of 4.2 stars. That's the average, right? So there's a really high bar for being a top-rated business, and consumers do reward those businesses who are higher rated than the competition, especially all other things being equal. I'm going to choose a 4-star over a 3-star business. Another reason that reviews are especially important is because they're more and more prominent all the time. So when you conduct a Google search that has some detail in it about the type of business that you're looking for, coffee shops with Wi-Fi near me is our example here, you're going to find in the results that Google is calling out these little snippets of review content that mention, hey, Sweet Talk Cafe, I love the Wi-Fi here. So those reviews, it's a little bit of a scary situation perhaps for businesses who, after all, cannot control what people are saying. We hope they love the Wi-Fi, but what if they don't? That content is going to be prominent in the review as well. It's really showing up in more and more places. But believe it or not, there is a strategy for turning these reviews into greater revenue for your business. And the strategy really has to do with responding to reviews. There are other things that we certainly recommend. Asking for reviews is fine as long as you're not doing it on Yelp, but certainly you can do that on Google. We encourage people to use reviews as a signal to improve business practices. So you really do want to be taking in that review content and making sure that you're taking those reviews seriously, especially if you see, let's say, trends in negative reviews across many of your locations. That's often an indicator that you need to actually improve your customer experience in a specific way. And if you do that, you're more likely to organically receive more positive reviews over time. But as a more tactical step that you can take right away, respond in a timely manner to reviews, both positive and negative. If you only respond to your negative reviews, you sound like you come across like a company that only cares when people are complaining and doesn't bother to praise your loyal fans. If you only respond to positive reviews, that's even worse. So you need to respond to a broad base of your reviews. You need to do it in a meaningful fashion that is paying attention to the content of the review, call the reviewer by name, respond to their specific concern. And we have found, our research shows, that companies that respond to the majority of their reviews, they are going to convert from their online profiles, they're going to convert new business about 16% more often than brands that ignore their reviews. Why is that true? Because every time you respond to a review, every other person who visits that business profile is going to see that response, and they're going to form a positive impression of you as a business as a result. And again, all other things being equal, those companies that respond to their reviews are going to be chosen over those that don't. And that conversion rate boost, 16%, is a significant boost because conversion rate is the single biggest driver of revenue for local profiles. And I would also say respond to other forms of consumer feedback online. When people are asking questions in your Google profiles, when people are posting questions on your social channels, you want to be just as responsive. Form that as a habit. Now, of course, all of these things that we've been talking about are difficult to do. And that's why we're finally arriving at the topic of AI for automation for local marketing as a proposed solution to being able to execute on these priorities in a way that works for brands and franchises that have lots of locations, right? So it's all well and good to say, if I'm a small business, I can do everything I need to do on Google and start to learn about TikTok and begin and respond to my reviews and my social feedback. For larger franchises, that is incredibly challenging. It's challenging both because of the size of the problem. So if I have 500 locations, or I've got 500 times as many profiles and as much content from consumers, et cetera, to worry about and deal with. But it's also a bigger problem because of the complexity inherent in the franchise model, where you've got these independent owners who may or may not be participating in the program that you're advocating for, or may find it difficult to do all of the things that are identified as best practices. And that's why we at Soci have built AI automation into our entire platform. And we actually started with reviews because we saw that as the really most obvious low-hanging fruit, where it is really hard. We talk to a lot of brands, a lot of companies, and we find that it is very challenging for them to respond in a timely fashion to all of their reviews at the local level that they should be responding to. And so AI automation, as it relates to reviews, really can mean no more missed local consumer reviews. We have a product called Genius Reviews. Genius is our term for the AI automation layer that's been embedded now in all aspects of our platform. And with Genius Reviews, you can really ensure that your company is providing on-time, on-brand responses to every review in a manner that is authentic and unique and localized. And so we're using AI to read the content of each review and ensure that in the response, there is a call out of the topic of the review, that the response is personalized. It's always a slightly different response. In the sort of old days of templated review responses, you'd often see, well, thanks for your business, thanks for your business, thanks for your business, or we're sorry you had a bad experience, over and over and over again. That does not seem authentic to the consumer, whereas this type of response really can feel much more authentic than any kind of automation, quote unquote, that we've had in the past. So we're really excited by this because it really does mean that franchises are now able to act on these priorities that, again, they may have known about and wanted to do something about, that, but it was just a resource problem that couldn't easily be overcome until now. And, overall, we find, and this is another result from our survey, that consumers are more or less okay with using AI as long as it improves their experience as consumers. This is kind of a new area that we're delving into here, but we do find that consumers are more or less okay with it. And for the most part, the type of AI that we're talking about is not highly visible to the consumer. It's going to come across to them as an authentic response to their need, their problem, their question, their feedback, in a way that is likely to improve their experience as consumers. The other aspect that we really drilled down on, and this is actually our newest release in the Genius line of releases that we've recently done, has to do with optimization of local profiles. Again, you're trying to make sure that your presence on Google and other platforms is fully optimized, perhaps localized. You might be optimizing different aspects of your program in different markets. You've got lots and lots of fields and features, especially in a Google profile, to take care of. And this is a challenge for brands as well. And many franchise companies just don't have the level of optimization for every location that they wish they could execute on. But again, they're hampered by the resources that it would require to have that, to accomplish that goal. And so Genius Search, again, this genius term, meaning the AI automation that underlies the tool. We've always had in our platform a very robust set of functionality to build out search profiles at every location, but executing, making use of those tools has been the challenge. And now AI is going to be able to surface recommendations for you. This really does get to the true power of AI when it's really used at its optimal potential, to be able to recommend, you should be utilizing these secondary categories in Google. You should be optimizing for these keywords, to do that at a way that's, optimized for every location, that makes use of data that we're getting in. More and more, we're going to make use of, even reviews data and data from your social programs to help you understand what your consumers want to hear from you, and then execute on it with these much more sophisticated search campaigns. And so that is, again, a way to make use of these priorities that we've always known about in a way that is much more highly automated, and freeing up time for you to focus on learning about TikTok, which is something, of course, that you may be challenged to do, trying to keep up with all of these other things. So with that, I know we're kind of coming to an end here. We find that in our own research, that brands that have a strong online presence, that execute on all of these priorities well, really do see the revenue growth as a result. In fact, the top companies in our research grow in revenue at 2 to 3 times the rate of the average company. And if you're interested in finding out how your business stacks up against those averages, against the benchmarks that are relevant for your industry, we hope that you'll follow this link or this QR code, which will take you to a page on our site where you can fill out a request that we would provide a customized report to you for you that shows you how your company stacks up against those relevant industry benchmarks, and you can begin to take charge of these priorities and improve your business at the local level. So I believe we're just about at time. If you did have a question, I'm not sure, Lauren, if we have any time to take a look at that or not.
Yeah, I think we have one question, if you want to go ahead and take that one.
All right, let me see if I can pull that up really quick here. It is not pulling up for me. Oh, thank you. I have my other laptop here. Where does LinkedIn fall among the demographics? That is a great question. LinkedIn is especially important for those businesses that are marketing to other businesses, the B2B model. And it is a growing platform, which we definitely support within Soci with our social marketing tools. That is, I would say, beginning to replace Twitter, frankly, as a very important platform, but again, mostly for B2B. So if that's a priority for you, I definitely encourage you to be active on LinkedIn. All right, Lauren, I think I'll hand it back to you then. Lauren, I mean.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Damien. This was excellent content and excellent feedback from all of you. We really do appreciate it. Again, this webinar was recorded and along with the presentation deck will appear on our website early this evening. You'll be able to find that at community.franchise.org. Thank you very much again to Damien and the Soci team. And again, thank you to everyone for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day. Stay safe and healthy. Bye.